even now, almost half of women are making as much or more or almost the same as the men. So when exactly was hypergamy just exploding? And other than on dating apps where people are just swiping, when is it actually, what real world evidence do you have of hypergamy actually determining mate selection? Because it doesn't seem to be there.
Well, no, the Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge is part of
but
it.
But that's not reflected in the real world. Like that's
How is that not reflected in the real world?
So you're still okay. Maybe it's proving the point that this is what women want, but what people actually do in real life, what
you
people
work on
do.
OnlyFans, it's right there.
What do you mean?
Let's talk about the average woman.
We have 28% of sexless men. Hold on, we have 28% of men.
Wait, where are you getting 28% of sexless men?
Between the ages of 18 to 30, these men have had no sex in the last year. Hold on.
What year?
Well, but that went from 2014 to
2021, like we're trying to update it all of a sudden.
2022, it's not that. It's between 12 to 15% that have had zero sexual
partners. And it's been on the
partners.
steady decline since 1989, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, because younger people. So, in fact, 25 to 30, GSS 2022, 8% of men reported zero sexual partners.
Right up until 2020 when it fell off a cliff and then went right back up to where it is.
No, it's not.
See, here's the thing is everybody wants to look at that GSS study. They want to look at just what's happened since like 2019 to where we are right now, as opposed to the fact that it was from 1989 all the way to 2018, which is the time shift for that entire study.
No, I mean, the 2018 was like the year that all the incels, red pillars took that graph because that was actually an anomaly, even when you looked at years before, and especially when you looked at years after. Sexlessness is down. Yeah, well, I'm looking at the GSS.
That's only that stat that you're looking at is one data point among probably like a dozen.
It was an anomaly from 2008 when the iPhone was created till 2018. That's the point.
But that's not, no, because 2018, the 28% of men who reported zero sex, that wasn't in any other year, that when that one GSS 2018 study that hasn't been there, and for zero partners, and then every year, even before and after, it's been less, and especially when you look at 25 and up, because 18 to 25 have lower, they're doing everything less. They're having less sex. They're more likely to be virgins, everything. As soon as you go 25 and up, do you know what the rate of virgins for men 25 and over are? It's like 2%. Look that up. For 25 and over, the rate of virgins, virgin males, are like less than 2%.
I don't necessarily think a man not being a virgin means that he's doing well sexually. It just means that he's had sex
even if we looked at the most recent data we have between 18 and 30, it's 12 to 15% of men, and if you look at 25 and up, it goes way down. And 25 to 30, it's 8% of men.
But it has to progressively go down. Like once I have sex, then I can't go back to not having sex.
But I'm saying those people have one sexual, like if we look at just in the past year in 2022. And you look at 25 to 30, 8% of men reported zero sexual partners. Sure. So what's the contention?
God damn. What? God damn, what the fuck? All right, chat.
I'm lost.
Well, hold on. I wanted to, besides the sexless one, because you were saying like how is hypergamy personified now, right? So you gotta. Okay, so more and more women are meeting men online, right? I think somewhere between 20 to 50% of new marriages, they met online, right?
Less than half of women are online, though. Like, less than half of women use dating apps.
I understand that, but it's growing exponentially. It used to be, we go back 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. It used to be kind of taboo to be on a dating app.
Yeah. Do you know what the number one dating app on planet Earth is?
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah, and they don't keep data for that. So what I was going to say was, like, with the conventional dating apps, it's growing in the popularity of people meeting. And then on top of that, you add in Instagram, right? Because a lot of girls are meeting guys on Instagram as well. So you're saying, well, okay, how is hypergamy personified? If you look at the dating apps, women swipe right on Tinder, like on only 5% of the guys. On Bumble, most guys are virtually invisible. I think like 88% of men are invisible because women screen for 6 feet tall. That's a component of hypergamy. And here's the other thing too. You got to understand that hypergamy is a multivariate situation. What that means is women screen for a multitude of different things: height, income, competence, aesthetics, teeth, physicality. All these different things come into it. So whether it's not just for money, because you're looking at it like from a money perspective. But what I am saying is that women, right, even though they say, oh, I want egalitarian equal partnership, they don't necessarily they're not attracted to that, or they're not aroused by that.
So I agree with you about dating apps, but dating apps, we've seen time and time again, that data is not reflected into real life. This idea that this percent of men is having sex with all these women isn't borne out by the data. There seems to be a percentage of sociosexual women, and there seems to be a percentage of promiscuous men, and they seem to be fucking each other. That seems to be what's going on. with that.
Yeah, but
and then also what you're saying
that
about
percentage
being
of guys that are
height.
promiscuous is a minority of men.
Yeah, and it's also a minority of women. And what I'm saying, it's not this minority of men that's having sex with all the women. There seems to be 10% of women around that are high in sociosexuality. They're more likely to have casual sex, and those women and the men that are also high in that are kind of sleeping with each other. Most people, if you look at all the GSS data from the past few years, over 80% of people are having sex with one person that year. They seem to be having sex in relationships. Also, when you talk about height, you're right. On dating apps, because we have no choice. Every time I've used them, I go 6 feet up too. Otherwise, I'm going to get way too many men.
So that's
But
hypergamy.
no, but when you
That is hypergamy.
when you actually look at what's happening in real life, ResearchGate did a big thing on this. It was like over 60,000 men, and they looked at BMI, they looked at height,
Yeah,
and
that
they
does have an effect.
no, it doesn't, because
Yes, absolutely
well,
does. In
pull
fact,
up-
I can
pull
show
up-
you divorce
wait,
stats
pull
from
up-
people who are overweight.
pull up
that I do have.
that the research, at least when it comes to number of sexual partners, lifetime sexual partners, extremely short, and then there was extremely short, whatever, and then extremely tall. Between extremely short and extremely tall, there was a difference of 3. You have 3 more partners.
Yeah, but-
when they looked at BMI too, it was the same. It's not like it makes.
And then here's the other thing too, because I want to
Common sense.
because you're talking about this hypergamy, how is it personified, and then like again, we talked about this before, like in the 1800s, whatever that you were talking about before, marrying across social status, etc. Cool. But you got to remember, they were limited to their own geographic area. So a girl, right, she was only limited to the people in her neighborhood that her family knew, etc., in her town at best, right? But now, thanks to the internet, thanks to Instagram, etc., that has completely changed the game. And who's it changed the game for is women, because it's given women more options. It's created this aura of their grass is always greener on the other side. And here's the other thing too. I can't tell you, and hell, you do this as well. Women always say, oh, I have so many guys in my DMs. I have so many men that approach me, etc. You are absolutely lying if you're not going to tell me that does not influence your mating strategies. Because when you know that you have a bunch of guys in the pipeline, you can go ahead and afford to be way more picky and way more nitpicky on certain things that aren't that really big. But that's why women are so selective nowadays, where most guys don't qualify, because they have a huge arsenal of men that are willing to date them. So what's effectively happened thanks to technology is it's actually made hypergamy stronger.
But what I mean is, why is that then not borne out? Because even now, people tend to marry across socioeconomic status, across IQ, even across physical attractiveness. So why are we not seeing with the advent of dating apps that now all these like Starbucks women are marrying lawyers? It's not happening.
Well, here's the thing. You're going to see it in the next 5 to 10 years once we actually have a good amount of time elapsed where social media, right, has been used.
Yeah.
Because
I'll tell you exactly why that is. Because
hold on. Even in the past 5 years alone, there's been a drastic change in social media and usage and dating apps, etc. So we don't have the data yet. We're probably not going to see the data on the effects of what's going on now for another 5 to 10 years.
There was
Also,
a 2022 study that looked at Sorry, I know. They looked at the. Well, you told me that I would come here for a debate. So the 2022 study looked at
I didn't say words since like 30
they
minutes
looked
ago,
at
bro.
fraternities, and they looked at these so-called
Damn.
chads that get all these swipes, and they had like a 4-point-something% increase in partners. It wasn't like Tinder going into these colleges where actually yes, people
really
swipe.
don't mean to be rude, but can we like allow other people to speak?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Like, I just,
Well, yeah. I mean, please, if you got something to say,
I wanna say
like,
one
just
thing.
raise,
Okay,
go like
I
this and we'll know. Yeah.
So to your point,
Sure.
right?
Oh, okay.
Regarding dating apps, dating apps itself is manifesting women's true nature. Again, women that magically say, "Oh, 6 feet tall, good looking," is naturally in them. So dating apps that came about on the internet. I'm just saying before it was always there.
But with dating apps, we have nothing. Like, if I go on a dating app, I don't care if a guy's 6 feet tall, but I have
You
to
did
select
do
for
that.
something. But you can't
literally screened
otherwise.
for it a second ago.
But what I'm trying to say is, I have no choice but to screen for those superficial things. That's why a lot of
Okay,
women don't use them.
maybe you're
That's why
different.
men are outnumbering women 3 to 1, 5 to 1 on these
Maybe
dating apps.
you're
Women don't like
different.
it.
They're outnumbering men 5 to 1 and 3 to 1 because they're not getting sex. That is the thing. They're playing. That is the reason.
Why don't more women use them? Why do less than like 40% of women use
honestly,
them?
because women
Because you have Instagram.
Because women in every culture are less interested in casual sex than men, and these dating apps are for casual sex. But the point wasn't whether or not you have sex on there. The point was, did you find these other people attractive? If the top 20% of men are getting 83% of the right swipes, but the top 43% of women are getting 63% of the right swipes, that means in general,
They can't see that roll.
the distribution for men is equal, and the distribution for women is shifted to the left.
I understand that, but in real life,
Hold on,
like,
wait.
that's the thing. Like, if I go on a dating app,
Oh,
all I'm
Russell
going to
Simpson.
screen for, because I can only talk to 10 people, are the most attractive. But in real
wanna
life,
get
I don't
Russell
give a fuck
on
about
this.
that.
All
So
right,
that's why I don't
I was
do
bored too.
So listen real quick. Dating apps, right? Even before dating apps, didn't you worry about men's height or, for example, their looks off rip without dating apps? Yeah? For you?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
So the question is, right, before dating apps, right, before you rebond.
You could do this with a yes or no.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, get your things ready. Before dating apps. Go ahead. Go ask your question.
How'd you select for men? Was it height? Was it looks? For example, did dating apps actually change your opinion of how you look for men?
The dating
No,
apps
right?
changed.
No.
So from the very beginning, it was
Okay.
in you to want.
Hold on.
high-level men.
If it's a no, give me a thumbs down. If dating apps did not change your preferences in men, okay. All right. Mostly girls are saying it did not change their preferences.
So
Okay, only
hypergamy
two
was
did.
always there from
No.
the very beginning.
But what I mean is, you may say, okay, if your argument is women want this, women all want men that are 6 feet tall, fine. But what I'm saying is that the men that are 6 feet tall versus the men that are 5'5", 5'6", they're not having less. Those shorter men are not having less partners; they're having different partners, and that goes along with my assortative mating. It's similarity attraction hypothesis that people typically, even if they want this, what's happening in real life is people are still kind of falling, and then there seems to be a percentage of men and a percentage of women that are higher in sociosexuality. They're more promiscuous, and they seem to be hooking up with each other. The majority of people have had one partner. In the
I'd be very reluctant to believe studies that deal with female promiscuity and them being honest and forthcoming about it. But you want to say something? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say you're very smart, but I think that you talk too much.
Well, no, that's, you know what, totally fair. In my defense, when I got asked to be here, they told me there would be a switch.
Jasmine, will you-
They told me,
and like
Will you just go on his show and just talk to him for
I will
just go stats?
absolutely,
Let's just-
sure. But what I
let's just go stats.
in my defense, they told me that they would bring on they would have women like you on, and then women like me on separately. That's
Yeah.
what they
is
told
women
me.
like me, though?
It's fine.
I want to know. I'm not even coming at you. Like, what is women like me? Because we don't know each other.
Oh,
No,
shit.
what I mean is like women who are I haven't heard you. Maybe you're super equipped to have this conversation, but I
No,
was
I'm
asked
actually
on.
very not. But I would just like to let other people speak.
Go
That's
ahead,
it.
speak. No one's on your mic.
Yeah, no, to be fair, like
Yeah.
she thought this was going to be more
Yeah.
of a debate. I think this is great. I think what they should do is just the two of them should
I
square
agree.
off
That's what I
and
thought
just
this
do like
was.
something on Zoom.
Also, the chat is finding this kind of like.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I'm
also,
with you.
they're getting very engaged.
I disagree
so
with
we
you.
gotta, like,
Real
Also,
quick,
like,
I disagree.
it's losing me a little bit. I'm
real-
not gonna lie. Like, that's why I say, like, I'm not equipped to have this conversation. So
Yes.
it's like,
Right.
Yeah,
Can we just
so
mix
I
it
thought
up
it was
a little?
I disagree with you about the hypergamy thing. I absolutely.
we can have our own conversation later, which is what I thought this was.
I'm just saying, like anecdotally, I'm confused that you don't see it either. If you go out on a regular basis, saying the women fighting for the same, like 6 women fighting for the same dude, I see it constantly, all the time. Dr. Scott Galloway, he agrees with me. Richard Reeves agrees with me. Like there is an inequity when it comes to dating, and anecdotally, I see it. I see a dude with a 500 body count and several of my friends with 3. I see that all over the place. But if you don't believe that that's a sign
Yeah,
of
and I think
hypergamy,
we should. I don't want to take
Okay,
more
cool,
people,
yeah,
but we
I
can have
understand.
our own.
this outside of the podcast.
Oh, shit. All right.
I still want to hear other
You
people's
got
ratings
something,
of
Pixie? Go ahead.
themselves. Yeah, there's just a
that's what I
couple.
was gonna say. Is that we never finished that. We stopped at her.
Yeah,
and
let's
then
do
we
that.
started-
Don't worry. I have
Curious,
it still here written.
Okay, I just want to say something quickly when it comes to the whole hypergamy thing, and basically like this like huge disparity that you guys are claiming. I think like the fact is that when it comes to like similar socioeconomic classes, similar IQ, similar things like that, you can talk about there's less of a social stigma in place now. But how many guys do we know actually like going after single mothers? Like it seems like that's still like you can be like the single mother's now empowered or whatever, but like most single mothers are gonna have a harder time in the dating market than non-single
Yes,
mothers.
of course.
Yeah, and then
And?
I also want to like bring up an interesting study that I remember reading that was basically women do select for higher money, higher salary, but men also select for like higher education when it comes to women, interestingly enough. And I think that goes back to this whole idea that like
Men generally select for beauty and fertility and
yeah,
youth,
but
mostly.
yeah,
No, they
but
select for money too now.
yeah,
actually.
okay, but a lot of them also select for higher education. And I think when it comes to like these highest like socioeconomic classes, yeah, you have some men like balling out, like flying out the Starbucks barista, whatever. But I think a lot, especially when it comes to old money, still have like these values in place of like, no, you have to have a proper lady from the proper background because you want to raise proper children.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Okay, then ask yourself who's their mistress.
I
That's
mean,
let me ask you this. Let me ask
I don't-
both of you. Let me ask you, if that's the case, if you honest to God think that, why is the marriage rate at 5.1 per 1,000? Why aren't guys just lining up around the fucking block to
People
get
give up on
married
each
right
other
now?
too fast.
Why is it? Why, if it's going to make you happier and healthier and all this great stuff that comes after, we're all selecting for, well, we just want the best and we're vetting for intelligence and IQ and education level and everything. Why is it at the lowest recorded level in history? And don't say it's because of the last 5 years of the red pill.
Because
well,
people
I was
are
gonna say that like
happened a long time
I was
before
gonna say there was this whole like historical like or throughout society, this very strong idea that that's what you have to do. That's what you have to get. You have to get married to be happy. And I think a lot of people that were not in financially stable situations, that were in all sorts of different situations, got married when they weren't stable. And when, guess what, the opportunity to divorce came up, they took it. I think when you look at higher,
I can speak to that right now. And this was more to your point, Liv. First, somebody asked me this later on, like what, like in the 60s, and hormonal birth control. One stat that tracks almost identically with the rise of use of hormonal birth control is the divorce rate, right from 1965 through 1975. It is, okay, I know correlation is not causation, but that is one fucking hell of a correlation.
So why has the marriage rate been, why have the divorce rates been the same for a while?
Yep.
Why have the divorce rates not continued? Like, why have they been pretty steady?
Because nobody's getting married.
Well, so and you were asking why, and I think our cultural conception towards marriage has changed. The narrative around marriage.
Because we have one invention that turned the human race upside down,
That's
which is
your
we
opinion.
gave the human reproductive process solely over to one sex, unilaterally to one sex. Not only with hormonal
cool
birth
story.
control, but with also with free and available abortion. Those are the two inventions really that happened, by the way, in that same decade right there, that essentially. I've said this before, is that it was more damaging to the human race than the atomic bomb. Okay, it has changed more about human society than anything else. So look at all the things that track between 1965 and 1975. You have what happened in 1971. We go off the gold standard. What happened in 1968? We have the no-fault divorce, which of course the conservatives, which I disagree on, say that the problem with the society right now is because we have no-fault divorce. No-fault divorce was meant to facilitate all of the divorces that have been happening as a result of hormonal birth control. So now you've got to have societal changes, legal changes, political changes. Now women have to get back into the workforce. Why? Because now they're single and they don't have to marry and they don't have to fuck beta males to make sure that they've got the beta buck side of hypergamy settled, which is provisioning, protection, and parental investment. Now I can have sex and I don't have to marry this bum because I don't have to worry about getting pregnant accidentally. So what happens? As soon as women have the ability, and this, by the way, this is the first time in human history that we have an invention that says you can have sex without having to worry about anything about pregnancy, and only one sex gets to control that.
I mean, the other thing that kind of in that time frame is women being able to work for themselves and enter the workforce.
Right, and the reason why they had to is because they were all getting divorced because they needed to support themselves.
Wait, no. You see the rates of women being able to enter the workforce basically around World War II, right? The men were out of the country.
No, they all came back from the factories.
Yeah,
and
they all came back to the factories.
That's how the
and
baby
guess
boom
what?
happened.
Women, guess what? They came back from the factories, and women, you see the second, third wave feminist movement coming in full swing, saying hey, we were able to work before, we were able to gain some sort of financial
in
stability.
1968,
we don't want
right
to lose
as the
that.
sexual revolution was in swing.
But you're basically attributing this to sexual revolution. What I'm saying is that this is more of financial revolution more than anything else.
Yes, which
Women
they
had
could not
economic
have,
freedom.
They could not have facilitated were it not for the hormonal birth
So
control.
you're
women
taking a
already had
correlation and putting a causation.
There's something called a condom.
Women had
Thank you.
economic freedom before
Bless your soul.
birth control. That's what I'm trying to say. The push for women's economic freedom happened prior to birth control. It seemed like the second that women were able to start bringing finances into the household and started to gain a bigger salary, this was already a motion put in place.
I can show you stats right now where the GDP or the real income for families stays the same, but productivity goes through the fucking roof right around 1971. Why is that? Because we have more women in the workforce. We have no-fault divorce. We have the going off the gold standard. Oh, and then, by the way, women who weren't allowed to have credit cards up until about 1974, that wasn't as a result of feminism like coming in there. It was because we didn't have to worry about it anymore because we have fiat currency now. So so ladies, you
That's a
need
really good
credit
point.
cards because now you're going to be single, you're going to be taking care of kids, and you're going to be divorced. And now you're also in the workforce. As a result, you see real wages flatline, but you see productivity go through the roof. Because what we've done is we've put women into the workforce, but we haven't really seen that translate to real wages. We see it translate crazy in productivity.
Wait, so you're saying men have been, you guys have flatlined, but we're
No,
going up.
women and men have flatlined. Productivity goes up because if you go and you look at, I'm working on this, it's almost a small book on 1971 right now. So if you look at the societal changes from in a post-sexual revolution society, which by the way we're still in right now. If you look at from 1965 to 1975, just that decade, and you look, we have no fault divorce, we have abortion happens then, we have the rise of hormonal birth control, we have divorce rates skyrocket, we put more women into the workforce. We look at Title IX happens right around then. If you look at all of those, you can track every single thing that we talk about here when it comes to gynocentrism or comes to feminism. All of those stats, they trace back to one fucking year, and it's 1971.
Well, so you're saying women, because I mean, like Reeves even talks about this, how our wages have gone up and your guys' haven't. You're saying that's not true.
I would say that's only in recent times because more and more, because then now we have finally got past. Oh, I should also add fertility rate. Fertility rate has been below replacement level since the mid 70s as a result of this as well. So all these people banging a gong about fertility rate, you should have been talking about that in the mid 70s. But as far as wages,
you're saying
so
women's wages
you have more women in law, you have more women in psychology, you have more women in enrollment, but also far more women graduating because men are tending to drop out because they don't see any point. There's no incentive for them to do it anymore. Because prior to the sexual revolution, men's means to getting sex was to be a good provider, to have a good job, to have provisioning, protection, and parental investment. That's what they could rely on. Now, women don't need a man, but they want a man.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's why, like, if you like with Reeves and stuff, he talks about this too. We need to flip the education. It's a really bad thing that men are not getting educated, that men are dropping out.
This is no fun. She's agreeing with us, dude.
Yeah.
Like, we should just move on.
So here's the difference between my take and Reeves' take is he sees this as some sort of social construction problem. It's not. It's a naturalistic problem. It's the machine hasn't changed since 200,000 years. Okay, so to say, oh, we need to flip. We need women to be more attracted to guys who are these weesh beta male, douchebags because they need more love. 80% of guys are deemed unattractive. How can we get more women to lower their standards so they can get with these 80%ers? That's not going to happen because of the way that the machine is built for men and women.
Do you believe in evolutionary psychology? Can we clarify that right now?
Yes.
Like,
I mean, I wouldn't say it's the strongest because it's top-down reasoning.
What would you say is stronger?
I mean, like if you're looking at a study like observational, when there's like actually a control group, all that, you can't do that with evolutionary biology or psychology,
right.
Which is why there's a lot of disagreement, even when it comes to human mate. Like serial monogamy seems to be the most successful mating strategy for us, but there is disagreement. Like there's.
Go ahead, you guys need to get in.
I feel bad for everything.
I'm
curious, do you think there is a crisis in dating? Do you think there's an inequity?
What do you mean inequity?
So for instance, a small group of men, and I'm not saying 20% of men are fucking 80% of women, but a small group of men, like say 30% of men are having sex with like 65% of the women.
No, I don't think that's borne out by the data. That's only borne out by Tinder swipes and swiping. But when you look at the data, it doesn't seem that's
okay. Well, let's go from beyond the data. Let's look at the enormous amount of men that are addicted to porn. Let's look at the enormous amount of men that don't necessarily approach women anymore. You got women approaching this, and this is where you got to kind of take the stats and then also take common sense and look at like everything else. Hold on, stop. You got to look at the totality of the circumstances. Stats give you one picture, and then it's up to you to use critical thinking to establish the other picture. If guys are getting laid and they're fucking women, they're not going to be watching porn most of the time.
Then why
but
that's
tell
not
me
true?
why there's an enormous amount of men that have debilitating addictions to pornography. Matter of fact, you benefit from it significantly. You make a significant amount of money off of your OnlyFans. You would not be able to do that if men were actually getting laid.
Well, then how come there was
your
that
own
recent
success is contingent upon men not getting laid.
There was a recent study on like the you're probably talking about what I'm talking about. The demographics, 90 or something % of men on OnlyFans are married. So how are they lonely losers?
Because they're not having sex.
They're not having sex. Do you realize, ladies, that so many guys are in marriages where their woman doesn't want to fuck them anymore?
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't want to like expose my friend or anything, but she has sex with her boyfriend every single day. She does everything with him.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be like specific, but
we probably won't know who they are.
He still jerks off to porn 3 times a day, regardless of having sex.
Yes. He's 18 years old.
But
that's
incredible
sociological survey right
He's
there.
26. He's 6
I guess what my issue is
Can I argue for something very quickly? Like, I think the idea of like, porn addiction comes from a lack of sex is not necessarily true or congruent. And the reason why I would argue this is because porn addiction is basically just like sexual gratification on the constant, right? You could be having constant. It's basically another form of sex addiction, in my opinion. Because when you're having a sex addiction, you want to constantly get off, and it's the same thing with the porn addiction. You're constantly looking
Yeah, but
for
way
that
more people
short-term
have a porn addiction
gratification.
than a sex addiction.
That's fair.
I mean, it's
that's
like
fair.
100 to 1. Like, it's not even close.
But the point that I'm trying to get across is that you could still be having sex with other people and still have a porn addiction.
You could be, but the issue is
Yeah.
we have all these.
You guys are fantastic at like isolating certain things versus again looking at the totality of the circumstances.
Well,
Just common sense. Let's just use some common sense. Why has dating content exploded over the past couple of years? Why has there been more men reporting loneliness and depression?
Yes.
Why are most men single? Why are so many guys addicted to porn? Why are so many guys struggling to get dates? Why do so many men fail on Instagram with DMing girls? Why do so many guys strike out when they talk to women? Why do most guys get rejected? If you look at the totality of the circumstances, it's very obvious.
Why are
that a
we?
minority-
My point is, why are we here? Why is there a Fresh and Fit?
Yeah,
why are his books
I
best-selling?
understand
Why do
that.
I have 2,700
but see,
clients?
like when it comes to porn addiction, one, it's super misunderstood. I would look at Dr. Nicole Prouse, UCLA a neuroscientist. No, moral incongruence seems to be a huge factor when it comes to porn addiction. It's not even considered an addiction by the ABA,
that's
the
one thing.
DSM-5.
That's fine, but what I'm saying is that's one thing. Then the friendless thing is another
The
thing.
friend listing is a huge thing. I
for
agree
sure,
with that.
for sure.
Yeah.
But then there's Scott Galloway talking about the inequity of dating, and then Chris Williamson today talking about 50% of
one
men
thing
dropping
I
out of
agree
dating.
with you,
Hold on. And then the people watching this, and all the other content with millions of people watching, and Andrew Tate becoming the most Google person in the world, and me, my little ass getting 2,700 clients, and his books being bestsellers. At some point, something is fucking broken. 30% of men on dating apps or on Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge are fucking married. Something is broken.
Yes, I understand that. And like, I don't know if you guys, I recommend everyone read Johan Hari's Lost Connections. I do agree with you. Actually, social media, it seems, social media does seem to have contributed to a lot of these issues, especially when it comes to loneliness
But there are issues.
everybody.
But there
I
are
agree
issues.
there are issues. I just don't think there's prevalent.
because before they cited the 2018 study and you're saying it's not that high. And what I'm telling you is that it's definitely damn near close, if not spot on, because when you look at all the other factors and use critical thinking, look at the explosion of dating content for men, look at the meteoric rise of Andrew Tate world fucking wide, right? Because he's saying things that are very basic, but a lot of guys have not been able to express.
You have to understand, like literally, like Andrew, what is his name? Date Psych, whatever his name is. His entire existence comes from trying to go against what people in this space are saying. He wouldn't even exist if there wasn't a problem.
I agree with you, and I'm not disagreeing that there has been like, I agree with like Reeves, right? There has been an attack, quote unquote, on masculinity. Now I agree with him also that this type of content is not the best solution, but I'm not saying that there isn't a problem. But we're also like, oh, look at all these people watching this. Well, yeah, it's like being in a hospital and being like, look at all these sick people.
But like David Buss doesn't go on Joe Rogan. There is no Scott Galloway talk. Like this entire thing, like we aren't even paying attention to it if it isn't a thing.
I agree we should. That's why I read Of Boys and Men. I'm not a boy, but I care about this. And I do think that, and I like how he put actual policy proposals.
The point I'm trying to make is that there is an overwhelming... Hold on, guys.
on social
because you were trying to make the argument before. You're not going to necessarily have stats for everything. What I'm trying to say is there's absolutely an overwhelming amount of men that are fucking clueless and not getting laid. That's a fucking fact.
That's true, but I don't think
that's a fact.
Okay, so you're arguing to
Go
argue.
ahead.
Real quick, you had a question, but before you said a question, by the way, your friend's pussy's trash. That's why. Go ahead.
All right, so what I really wanted to say was the dating pool. The bottom line is the dating pool is in shambles right now, and I feel as though women are trying to be men.
The men they wanted to marry.
So now the men are no longer wanting to play their role. Long story short, just
they're not
keep it a buck.
incentivized to play
How
the
do you
role.
feel
And
about
to add on to that, I agree with her. I think female promiscuity added to that and made more simps.
Question for you for dating. What do you think is the problem? They just mentioned women trying to be men, but what do you think?
I think it's both sides. I think men need to be better men. I think the world has become more like convenient and easy and instant gratifications and all that. So I think men also, we don't need to just tell women like, oh, y'all should lower your standards. Everybody should raise their standards on both sides. So
Besides dating criminals, what about you? What do you think?
I agree with them.
Nah, come on, something original.
I really do agree with them. I think that like now women are trying to be men. They're trying to take the higher role, and I just don't think a guy would want a woman who's doing all that because
women have become the men that they want to marry.
Yeah, what's the point of him doing what he's supposed to be doing?
You know what I think it is? I feel like the reason why this debate keeps going is because sorry, I just got dunked on. I just got dunked on. That was on me. I got that one. Is because we're describing two sides of the same coin, right? There's more women in the workplace. That means there's less marriage and a lower rate of fertility and more divorce. There's more women in the workplace. That's great because it has more freedom for women to leave bad relationships. You're saying the same thing statistically. It's just what you're saying is these things are good and this is great. Go ahead.
Women act off emotion, so I think.
Got it. Yes,
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. Well, when it's another thing. Women acting on emotion. It's just like two sides of the same coin. Because you're more progressive. The egalitarian nature of what's happened in the last couple of years. You're like, that's worth it. It's worth it to have a lower fertility rate. It's worth it to have fewer people getting married. And our side is saying, well, no, that's actually bad.
So why then are the most educated people, which academia leans left, right? Why are they the ones getting married more than before and everyone else is getting married less? Why are the least educated people?
What's going on here?
Why are the least educated people getting married less than the most educated people getting married more then?
Because they're incentivized to do so socioeconomically. It's better for them to get hell, everybody says, you're going to be happier, you're going to be better off if men make more money when they're married, right? And the other thing is they're not. We're still at the lowest fucking marriage rate in recorded history.
So what you're saying is educated people get married more, and what he's saying is just people in general getting married less.
I agree with that, and I would also say there are like religious, cultural reasons for that. We're becoming less religious as a society. We're culturally becoming.
I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it has to do with the machine itself.
And also, one other thing too, because you were saying that women just have the ability to leave shitty relationships. What I would say, because we got to define what a shitty relationship is, for most women, that's going 50-50, which is what you prescribe, which is what you want. But most women don't want that, is what I'm trying to say.
I don't think, what I'm saying is that women who are divorcing men, I don't think they're doing it, which is why college-educated women are less likely to do it, to get into that situation in the first place. They're with these men. A lot of women are with men because they provide for them financially. And the women who aren't with them for any other reason, like they actually love them, when they get that financial incentive, they're more likely to leave a man that they don't love. But if you love somebody, you don't just get divorced because you made money.
Which again goes back to the point we were making earlier. Like, she does have validity in what she's saying, and the point that she's talking about the average everyday guy. And the whole premise of this podcast is teaching men how to become high value men. That's why you guys are on here. That's why the guests who are on this panel are here, because we're trying to make a point of difference.
So what percentage of men can be high value? Because they can't make if everyone's high value, then no one's high value. So the majority are still not going to be high value.
16%. Okay. No, 1.5 standard deviation.
It's not even just being high value. It's about, because not everyone's going to be high value, but everyone can understand female nature.
Yes. Let me see if I can
put this.
It's 1.5 standard deviation.
She will not stop. Hold on, real quick.
60%.
Philly, I want to.